All right, welcome back to another episode of Can of Worms. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm with Cedric, Nick, and Chris. Guys, say hello.
Yo,
Yo, yo.
Welcome back to our subscribers, and welcome, of course, to anybody who's new. We're going to be talking tonight a little bit about New World, just to do sort of an update. It's been out for, 3 weeks now?
It's been out for almost a month now. It's been about 3.5 weeks now.
3.5 weeks, so it's closing in
Yeah.
on its first month. So one of the biggest things that's like been a story in the past couple of days is that the economy is I don't want to say it's in crisis, but that it's in bad enough shape that people are bartering.
Yeah, it's got the opposite effect of what you usually see in games where inflation's crazy, like prices for things are super high and there's not enough money in the economy to like handle that. It's more of the game's drop rates for certain items was a little too high and they had to tune that. But as a result, there's a bunch of those items in game. The value of them has been driven down, and the amount of money that you get from like quests and mobs started off really high, but now it's really kind of tailoring off. There's really not enough of a reward to counterbalance the money in game, and so basically, coin in game is losing its value. So
It's
on top
depreciating
of that,
rapidly. Yeah.
yeah, very, very rapidly. On top of that, there have been a couple of glitches and dupes that have allowed players to get rich very quickly. Now, they never mentioned anything about rolling players that did these dupes or things back. We know that they did get banned if they did it and they participated in it, but I don't know if they rolled this back. And so this also caused coin to basically lose a major amount of value. And then lastly, we're seeing what we see in all MMOs, right? But because there's other factors in play, like drop rates being off and coin just
constantly
not being
generating.
available. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
seeing players just pretty much screw up the economy by devaluing their own items, trying to undercut. They're legitimately devaluing their stuff. So
There's always
it's
that
just
race to
a
the
big
bottom.
problem. Yeah, it is.
And what do you do really to counter that? Because the market does sort of correct for itself, but when you look at like WoW and like how automated it became over time, like the amount of mods you could have that would essentially just run the auction house for you, kind of took any fun out of it, at least for me. But the reason why I think it's more crucial here with New World is that it's such a player-based economy in that type of a game, as opposed to like say WoW, because you have your homes, you have your forts, your cities. You also collect taxes from the areas you own, right?
Yeah, you do. If you own a town, you have to pay taxes on that town. If you own a home, you have to pay taxes on that home.
So the people in the guilds who got in like right in the beginning and took the choicest towns like in the center of the map, do they now have sort of an insurmountable advantage in terms of the wealth that they built up even in the first couple of weeks?
I don't know if I'll call it insurmountable because now it's kind of like they have all this coin. What are they going to spend it on? But they do have enough wealth to be fine when coin value does raise. And yeah, I mean, take the server I'm on, like the people that have purchased Everfall, like which is one of like the heart hubs, like people just go there to trade and sell, buy, sell, trade. Have been the owners of it since they purchased it for 100K at the beginning of the game. That hasn't changed. The reason being is also wars are kind of set to be defender sided. Well, they're supposed to kind of be defender sided, but the way that the game operates right now, wars are heavily defender sided. I'm talking like 90 to 95% to 5. Like,
wow,
winning an attack, it's either, and we won't get too deep in this, you either got really lucky or with a really, really well organized group, or you probably glitched the servers with a bunch of AoE on the point while also putting your game in windowed mode and moving it around, which is a thing that they had to fix very quickly. So there's not been a lot of wins, not just on my server, but on any server. It's not been a lot of wins on attack because it's just way too defender sided. Which causes a bigger problem, right? Because again, those companies and those trade hearts like Windsward and Brightwood and Everfall, they just don't rotate out like the game intended eventually. They don't ever get cycled out. another
Okay.
guild.
So they kind of erred on the cautionary side of going a little bit more defensive heavy, so that they weren't being flipped constantly.
So that if you paid 100K for a town, or you beat someone in town, you had the advantage in the war. And I don't get me wrong, I do think that's the right thought pattern, because again, taking a fort is not it's not a easy thing. It's
Easy
a
thing.
difficult thing. It is
Yeah.
defender sided, but same time, once you lose certain footings in a fort attack, the percentage of success for attackers go up to the point where it's 50-50, and then it tips the scales in the balance of attackers. Like, if you lose
Oh.
your siege weapons, you're kind of in some trouble as defenders of fort, and it's not really that way in the game, or at least it doesn't feel like it. So they've got to fix that, and so inherently, yes, guilds are becoming so, I guess, in quotations, wealthy, that they're set up for the rest of the game. But really, that wealth doesn't have the same value you think it does, because what's the point in having coins?
If you can't buy
Um,
anything.
you can't really buy anything of worth right now to you, because one, the grind to be able to craft legendary 600 gear score gear is real. Some of the items for some of the legendaries aren't even like feasibly obtainable at the moment, and you have to have so many different like factors happening to be able to make the gear, that it simply just isn't, even at this junction of the game, it's not a real thought to be able to buy a full set of 600 gear. There's not
Oh, okay.
even, I wouldn't even say there's over 200 pieces of 600 gear out on the market, let alone maybe 100. So
So
yeah,
is
like the value of coin is down.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. So basically, the opposite of most games where well, no, that isn't really the opposite, but it's for
Well,
different
no, in
reasons, I
most
guess.
games, like at this point, right, at almost a month in, people are getting the very best gear in the game. We
Yeah.
are almost a month in, and people still don't have 600. Like, and there's not a ton of people with a 600 gear score item. Either they got very lucky with a drop, or they, gave
Really
their
took forever.
firstborn to craft one, right?
So
But
is it like the Guild Wars 2 legendary weapon, like when it launched? You remember at launch how hard it was to get?
yeah, it was just terrible to try and go do anything to get it.
Exactly. Is it that level of like, or
Which class was it in Guild Wars where you had to pretty much deforest the entire game to get enough wood to craft a part for it?
oh god, that sounds like the I'm just remembering like a giant two-handed sword that took forever to get.
I
Like
don't know
it
if
was
it was
silly.
Eclipse or not, but
I think it was Eclipse.
It's been
I
so
don't
long.
remember the names of all that. Yeah, it's been a minute, but I remember one of my buddies playing a class where they had to collect so much wood, they literally would just start at one end and whatever. And I was like, wow, that's
That
special.
that
yeah,
sucks.
it's kind of like that. It's there's like usually three or more professions that roll into like a higher profession, right? So like armor smithing, you have to have these other professions up. Your gathering professions need to be up, be able to gather that stuff, or you can spend coin on it.
I love the
And then
gathering so far.
yeah, the crafting is a lot of fun in the game. Honestly, some of these issues are kind of what the devs wanted to have happen, but
They're
I
just
don't think they
exaggerated.
wanted it to this. Yeah, I don't think they wanted it to this point, right? They didn't want at week 3.5 there to be a full sets of 600 gear people running around their game, messing stuff up for other people trying to still level. Like, it very much still feels like when you hit 60, once you get your faction gear and you get your 580 weapons, which are just a quest chain that everybody can do once if they have that weapon maxed out, right?
Hmm.
And it's just 8 quests. You do need some friends to help you on some of them, but it's just 8 quests, and you get a 580 weapon. That was going to be the benchmark for the servers for a while, and so it does very much feel like when you hit 60, if you just put in, maybe I don't know, fucking 10 to 12 hours of work, you'll be caught up with the majority of the server. And
Oh,
so
okay. That's not
that
too
I
bad.
really do like about it, but I think the time frame behind it is probably just a little bit too long, and it is driving the value of money down
Down
significantly.
considerably. That's
Yeah.
unfortunate. Um, but like I said, I think it's altogether sort of expected, and we'll definitely keep updating on New World because I may not be playing it as often as I'd like to, but I know you certainly have been putting in some hours, and I want to hear more about the game as it does actually develop and have some updates beyond simply just what has crashed recently or what bug has shown up in the first month
Yeah.
uh, or anything else that people would bitch about. I also can't wait for because I know that Syndicate is probably going to bleed the most people when the whole honeymoon phase of the game wears off, and that will be when I can't wait to play.
Yeah, I was thinking that might have happened with Elion releasing like this week, or I believe it was this week. I'm fairly certain it was this week, but it just didn't. So I will say, with the game having really, it started off pretty smooth, but just as the weeks have gone on, a lot of glaring issues and glitches and problems and design flaws popping up that just cannot be ignored. They do have to fix some of this, and quickly.
Yeah.
That was surprising, that even though these things have popped up pretty quick, it didn't really lose any like players or fan base to a brand new free to play MMO that's come out that's, kind of compared with
good.
BDO.
Yeah, and I mean, it almost looks. Elion reminds me more of almost like a Dark Souls Bloodborne version of BDO. When I look at it, it may not play that way, because there are a lot of trailers for it now that I remember, and I go to look. Anyway, if you guys are playing New World, are you dealing with the same kind of economy problems that we're seeing in the editorial pieces that they obviously publish in like Kotaku and everybody else, or do you think it's exaggerated? So let us know in the comments if you which way you land on that, and we will cover more New World pretty soon, probably next week. Take it easy.
Peace.
We're so low energy tonight. We're like, oh, we could barely give a fuck.